Hey guys, Frightener22 here, back with another movie review, a theatrical movie review of a film that I just saw opening night on Friday, and it is from one of my favorite studios, and that, of course, it's Pixar Animation Studios' latest effort, Monsters University. Now, this is a prequel to the original 2001 Monsters, Inc. film, and in this film, we're focusing again back on the two great characters of Mike and Sully, and kind of showing audiences where this whole friendship and camaraderie started, and it takes them back all the way to their college days. And from there, you kind of learn that they're entering the Scare School program to go on to be these great, iconic scarers that they hope to be. And, it's not exactly love at first sight between Mike and Sully. It kind of becomes, a bit of conflicting personalities, whereas Sully is the son of a, really great scarer that's very known amongst his peers. So he kind of just, rides in. He's a bit of a slacker, very different from the Mike Wazowski that's very gung-ho, and he studies, and, he knows all the scary theories. So they're two very different characters that don't really get along that well. So by some circumstances that I'm not going to reveal, I'll let that, be shown in the movie to you guys. They both get kicked out of the Scare program. But there is one little, outlet of hope for them, where if they, join pretty much the worst fraternity on, sorority or, fraternity row or whatever it may be, they have a chance of winning, landing once again in the Scare program if they win, a series of events to, deem them the best, frat on the block. So it's kind of a cool, it's a blending of college movies and college humor and, kind of like a band of misfits, forming together to kind of battle the odds. And through that, Mike and Sully learn things about themselves and each other, and that's where the friendship really blossoms. First and foremost, though, Monsters, Inc. is probably hands down one of my favorite Pixar films to date. I mean, you have to remember, this is, 2001, so this is really early on in Pixar's career. They were really riding, the coattails of, their new popularity of, Toy Story and Toy Story 2 and A Bug's Life. So, the wheels were turning very rapidly for Pixar, and Monsters, Inc. was really this, really wonderful breath of fresh air for everybody, especially, given the climate of the times. 9/11 had just struck the country, so everybody was very, in awe. It was a real big state of shock for everybody here. And then, months later, a film like Monsters, Inc. comes along, and it really allowed people to escape again and really enjoy themselves and laugh. And I think a lot of people do forget that when they really put a timeline and remember when exactly Monsters, Inc. debuted. So I think for reasons like that, and of course, the story itself and the characters are just so remarkable and lovable, but that is, what really, I think, resonates with a lot of audiences, and of course, there's just a whole nostalgia thing that comes with it, like Woody and Buzz are for people that saw that film back in '95, so the characters in the Monsters, Inc. universe are very, they're very renowned for a lot of people and audiences that grew up with it, and I think that here, this is what you're getting. I think that the popularity and the massive success that Monsters University is having this weekend, I mean, it debuted #1. It actually is like the #2 most profitable opening weekend for Pixar, trailing right behind Toy Story 3. So this is a really, really big success for the studio, mixed with overseas sales as well as, stateside sales. I think the opening numbers for the film are like $136 million, which is insanely good. And again, I think that that's just a very, very big testament to what, these characters do for audiences. I mean, people grew up with Mike and Sully and are more than happy to kind of take the trip again with them and really learn where these characters met and where this friendship really formed. Now, my opinions about the film, I loved it. I mean, I've been reading a lot of reviews throughout the days where people have, the consensus pretty much is that it's a good movie. It's a fun movie, but there are also some people that still kind of feel that although it's a decent film, it's still a bit of, it's a bit of a disappointment in the same way that, Cars 2 felt like, in the same way that people felt Cars 2 was a bit of a weak link in Pixar's canon. But, I'm going to go against that. I really think that Monsters University is very much up to par of, their best efforts. I think that it kind of, it introduces and brings us back to this world, Monstropolis, that we loved so much from the original film, and it brings us back to a very familiar environment, but completely different circumstances, and, kind of like new characters, because these are the Mike and Sully before we truly knew who Mike and Sully were. So, for that in itself, it's a very interesting film. I mean, they didn't take, the typical sequel route where, you could have just taken the story a step further, and you could have reunited with Boo and what have you, but that story was already told. We're not going to be seeing Boo in previous adventures, because, according to the original director, Pete Docter, Boo's story was already told, and told pretty perfectly, and I'm going to have to agree with that. I think that that was a really solid way to end the movie. I think that Boo's story and Boo's journey was told, so there was really no reason to go, beyond that. Now, the added challenge was to go back, to really go back and try and, flesh out a story that hasn't been told before the first one, and that's a really big challenge. But I think Pixar really succeeded in telling a really charming, well-written, well-animated story. I just think that the whole thing was really great, and I think that it really, I think it ranks pretty high up there. I think the message in this film is, it's really great. I think that I think that the message that they're really trying to send to audiences, both, young and old, is that failure is a part of life, and it's okay. We all have big dreams of becoming certain things, but, life's roadblocks get in the way sometimes, and it always doesn't work out that way. But along the way, there's surprises at every turn, and although we don't get exactly what we thought we wanted, sometimes it's for the best, and there's always surprising results around the corner. And I think that that's a very important message to kind of introduce to young kids, but then also to reinforce to older generations. So that alone is why I really think that I dug this film a lot. I think that it has a great message, and all of the characters are just great. Billy Crystal and John Goodman are on the top of their game in this one. I mean, it's Mike and Sully again, but just at younger years, and putting them in the college setting is hilarious. I mean, it just opens up for so many great gags. I mean, it's almost like, Animal House or something, but done in a Pixar fashion. So there's so much room for all these great gags, as they're doing the, these like triathlon type of scaring events. There's so much, hilarity and chaos ensuing in each of these scenes that I really dug it. Of course, you're introduced to a slew of new characters, like their comrades in kind of the misfit frat that they've joined. There's really great people. There's an awesome character named Art, who's voiced by Charlie Day. He's absolutely hilarious. He is just hysterical. He's definitely a scene stealer in this. But, everybody I thought was really great. It's a terrific film, so if people are a little weary and kind of, second-guessing themselves based on reviews that think that this is a weaker link for Pixar, don't be, caught up in that, because it truly is another remarkable effort on Pixar's part. If you liked, Monsters, Inc. and the characters of Mike and Sully and what they accomplished in that movie, then I highly doubt that many people are going to walk out of Monsters University disappointed. It is being presented in 3D and 2D. I went and saw it in 3D, and I thought that it looked really good, actually. I thought there was a lot of great depth. There was a lot of scenes that kind of lent to, a three-dimensional aspect. Is it constantly, jumping out of the screen and, throwing stuff at your face? No, but it doesn't have to be to make it a worthwhile 3D movie. So I think, the environment that they're in, the shapes, and, how some of the monsters have tentacles and, longer arms than others, kind of makes this a pretty pleasurable 3D experience. So if you're kind of questioning if you debating whether you want to spend the extra few dollars to see it in 3D, I'd recommend seeing it in 3D, because, for a lot of people that don't have 3D TVs or something, this might be the one and only time that you'll see it in 3D, and then when it comes to Blu-ray, you'll buy the 2D Blu-ray, and that's the only version you'll ever see. So that's why anytime a movie is ever, presented in 3D in theaters, I'll always go and see it in theaters in 3D above all. But in the case of Monsters University, yes, I would definitely recommend checking it out at least one time in 3D. But overall, Monsters University was a terrific film. Like I said, if you're a fan of the original film, if you love what Pixar's doing, this is another film that ranks really high in their practically flawless canon of film, so definitely get around to checking out Monsters University whenever you guys can. It's certainly a knockout of a film. Well, guys, thanks again for tuning in to another one of my theatrical movie reviews. Tune in early next week for yet another DVD update where, I'm really trying to stay on the ball with this and give you guys one every single week, so be sure to tune into that. Early on next week. So, as always, thanks again. Be sure to subscribe, comment, give this video a thumbs up if you guys like what I'm doing. Follow me on my Twitter to stay even more in the loop with all things Frightener 22, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks again.